Coming up on the CHGO Cubs Podcast, Shawzy Love. Is Matt Shaw the next Rookie of the Year in the National League? Plus, well, they didn't like it at one of the networks, PCA, but Crow, my goodness, do the fans love him, and so do we. It's all coming up next. Plus, how would you build a winner with $40 million this year? CHGO Cubs, next. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? Coming to you live on this Sunnyside Thursday. This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast. Visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day, only for 21 and older or Illinois medical card holders. Happy Thursday. It is January 9th. The sun is out for our Sunnyside Thursday. It's a little chilly, but we're ready to warm you up with a little baseball talk today.
You know, it's crazy how you can feel the difference between like 15 and 25 degrees.
Yes, you can.
That's when you know you're from the Midwest. That's when you know that you go through when you're deep in the weeds, or I guess the snow of living in the Midwest. These people on the West Coast, they just don't understand. Like, nothing against our Cub fans that live in, like, L.A. or California or whatever.
And the poor people in L.A. right now.
Right.
On a serious note.
On a serious note, yes. Y'all are in my thoughts. That said, though, the cold, like the winter here in the Midwest, there's nothing like it that I feel like people who don't live here just don't understand.
People from New York don't get it. Like, people from New York come here and go, whoa, this is way colder than New York. And it's like, well, you have the ocean warming you up. When I had my very first job and I lived 3.5 hours north of Green Bay, up on Lake Superior, I came home from the first time and it was like 20 degrees and I was running around without a coat on because it felt like springtime. Yeah. Because every day there is below zero.
Yeah, it's crazy. I didn't even wear my heavy coat in today, even though it's 25 degrees. I wore a vest. And the only reason I'm not wearing it is because it's the same color as yours.
Right. And to compete against me in a vest is, it's difficult. Understandable.
That's fair, but also, I just didn't want to sit here in the same color vest.
Yeah, we didn't want it to look like Vest Thursday. Vest Thursday. It's not. It's a Sunnyside Thursday. We're going to talk about Matt Shaw, potentially as a Rookie of the Year. We're going to try and build with $40 million the next Cub winner for this season. If they're only going to give us $40 million, how would you spend it this season? Start thinking about that in the live YouTube chat, which we know everybody's starting to log in now. We appreciate you. Think about that. $40 million. How would you spend $40 million if that's what the Cubs gave you right now before the season? Here's $40 million. Go build out the rest of the roster. How would you do it? We'll talk about that in a second. Yesterday, a lot of the talk was Pete Crow-Armstrong. And it is he snubbed for not being on MLB Network's top 10 center fielders? At first glance, when I thought about it, I thought, he's snubbed. Then I started looking at the other names and looking at the names that weren't on the list, and I had decided personally, no, he was not snubbed, because you're not talking about just defensive center fielders. You're talking about center fielders. And the craziest thing about the whole thing is that Aaron Judge isn't on the list. Okay, he might not play center field this year, but if the list is right now, I consider him a center fielder. So no Aaron Judge even on the list. Now they've also released their fan list. And I thought what was interesting is while MLB Network is not giving PCA the love, whether it's a snub or not a snub, boy, the fans love some PCA.
Or there's just a lot of Cubs fans.
Or there's a lot of Cubs fans going online to vote for this. He was number 5. Number 5, he was the 5th best center fielder in all of baseball. Now, remember what the first half of the season was like. I'm not saying he couldn't be there, but you're jumping ahead of some really, really good center fielders. Again, Corbin Carroll wasn't even on the list.
I'm not even really surprised that the fan vote went this way because he's an exciting player. They had the what do you call it, the inside the park homer against the Marlins. He had that. He took away that home run in LA. Like, he was on a few highlight reels last year, and people love, especially the young people love the new toy. And when he started taking off, like, it's got a little bit of recency bias because people are going off like his last 2 months of the season. So it's always funny how, like, this list just makes me laugh whenever people yell at me about being optimistic about one guy that maybe a lot of people aren't high on.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see a list like this and it's like, well, really, I'm not the biggest idiot on the internet. So thanks, guys. I appreciate y'all for making me feel that way, because as much as I think you can make the argument that he can be in the top 10, I mean, objectively, he's not top 5 in all of baseball, like, objectively. So it is what it is. I love this. I love that fans are excited about him. I love that there's certainly the high upside, but, like, let's calm down a little bit.
Well, Brian G says PCA is just a vibe. Even non-Cubs fans know that. That if you're just
and
going,
again, that's what I'm saying.
The list wasn't best vibing center fielder.
I agree.
Right?
But that's how these fan vote lists go, though. They go, people are just clicking a button and they're thinking about, oh, remember when he had that inside the park homer?
Yes.
Remember when he robbed that homer in LA? Remember that August he had? Like, again, it's recency bias. Like, he ended the season playing well, and a lot of fans who are probably clicking those vote buttons are probably thinking about that. I don't care personally. Like, cool. Like, I do that shit all the time too. I don't care.
You know what I think happened?
At the same time, like, that's just objectively wrong.
Although I will say the live YouTube chat right now has a lot of back and forth. Like, people say they love him, but there's a lot of people saying no, he's not. It hasn't been a full year. He's not a top 10.
He certainly has the ceiling to be something like this.
What I think happened
is he there yet? No. Top 5?
I think the sickos and the diehards have a louder voice than the average baseball fan.
Well, yeah, because the sickos are the only ones going to
that
vote.
Are in there, they're the ones going on to vote.
Yeah.
So PCA, inside the park home run, they were just like, number 5.
Yeah. And again, he ended the season well. So people are thinking about how he's playing right now. They completely are disregarding everything that happened the first 2.5 months of 2024.
What if you changed it to what De La Cruz is saying in the live YouTube chat? What if you changed it to most exciting center fielders?
There you go.
In Major League Baseball right now. How high does he climb up your list? I'm trying to think of the other. I mean, does it make him? Is he more exciting than Jackson Merrill after last year?
Well, probably not, because Jackson Merrill was awesome all around.
And I still want to put Aaron Judge on the list. So, like,
sure.
Aaron Judge is number 1 on the list until he's not a center fielder. Might be now, might be spring training, but it hasn't happened yet. So, Judge, Merrill, like, how many down the list? I think he definitely makes the top 10 if you're saying exciting, just because of his defense.
Yeah.
And his base running.
He has a little bit of flair when he's the few times he scored runs this year. The way he goes to the dugout. I just think these little highlights that the MLB Twitter accounts and social media accounts will put out there of him. He's going to be a guy, like, it's so ironic that Javi Baez was traded for this guy. Like, they have the exact same type of flair, in my opinion. Like,
Javi was never had Hayden Panettiere as a babysitter.
Fair enough. I just think that they're going to be very similar very similar players in terms of popularity. I think a lot of the younger fans were going to be attracted to PCA, and I don't blame them. I'm even excited about him. We're excited about him, right? Like, there's reason for that. But it's just, again, like, it's ironic that they were traded for each other. So I think in terms of excitement, maybe top 5, perhaps. I don't want to go through and try and list the most exciting center fielders in baseball, but he certainly has a flair that gets people talking and gets people excited. And the way he goes about his business and the way he says things and the way he plays the game, he's certainly going to be at the top of the list for opposing fans, Brewers fans, Cardinals fans who are probably not going to like him. They'll probably respect his game a little bit, but he's probably going to be at the top of the list in terms of players that they don't like on the Cubs. I can see it. Like, none of those fans liked Javi Baez. They all hated Javi Baez. I feel like PCA could be like that for those fans.
You know what's exciting? We have Joey running the 1s and 2s today, and I think he's itching to say something to us.
I had a question for you guys.
A question.
With all the excitement with PCA coming into the season, is it also fair to say that he is maybe one of the most Cubs that we need to have a good April and May offensively? Is he one of the top Cubs that probably needs to come out of the gate swinging a little bit, or would we perhaps turn on him?
To me, he has to at least be an average hitter, because
out of the gate?
Right out of the gate, I don't necessarily
What's more important for a hot start if they make the team? Shaw or PCA? Who's more important to have the good start right out of the gate?
Probably PCA. Because you can't put that kind of pressure on a guy like Shaw who hasn't even taken a major league at bat. But we've talked about this a lot. Like, PCA, his value alone will be incredible if you have that elite defense and base running, and if he just is an average hitter. Now, if he hits like he did in August last year, go look at the numbers he had in August last year. If he does that for 2 months, not only will he'll
go up that list,
exceeding projections, but he'll be in conversations to be an all-star if he does anything like that. I think that was just like a hot month, and I think that there's a lot of promise from that month, and he can be somewhere in that middle between how bad it was to how great it was. I think he's more likely somewhere in the middle, but yeah, I mean, he didn't just do that for like a few days. He did that for an entire month and a half, honestly, if you count September. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to really expect, but I've just always thought that if he was a league average hitter, if he was a 100 WRC plus with that defense and base running, like, that's really valuable player.
We have a couple different opinions in the live YouTube chat. I see Mark Pelkey says 300 all year, 25 homers, 50 stolen bases.
Hell yeah, bro.
Well, there's some Kool-Aid. There's some Cubby Kool-Aid, maybe with a do-right donut on the side too, right?
There's a lot of optimism for PCA going into 2025, and I don't see why we shouldn't be excited about the guy. At least I don't really know how to project all the numbers, but I think there's obviously good reason to be excited about him in 25.
Absolutely. I mean, he was your top prospect. He came up, and it wasn't good, and people started to get worried. Gordon Wittenmeyer got worried. I got worried. Yeah. I know Braggs got worried.
Oh, yeah, he started talking trash, and then I had to, he called me one night, and I was like, dude, you're just going to have to let him keep going through it. Like you said yesterday, he gave me credit.
He looked good. Then he met him at Wrigley Field for the Winter Classic, and he was like, "Oh, you're my favorite player."
But hey, you've
always been my favorite player.
Your mom was awesome in that movie.
I laid bricks, and you've always been the number one brick in my house.
If you wanted me to kind of give some sort of slash line that I think he could do in 25 realistically, I'm thinking 265 with a 340 on base and a 450 slug, maybe
40.
Maybe that's
bases.
Optimistic. I don't know, but that's what I think. Somewhere between 250 and 270 batting averages would be solid for him. Would be solid. So I know batting average it has its flaws, but for someone like him, and I don't know how much he's going to walk, he's gonna have if he's gonna be if he's gonna be a valuable hitter, he's gotta I'm not saying he's gotta hit 300, but he's gotta be somewhere in that range at least, I think, to be a real valuable player. But it helps that he's elite defensively.
All right, we're going to shift to Matt Shaw in a second. We'll talk about him, but first a word from our sponsors. With Empire Today, you get to shop at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring, so of course they have copycats, but Empire can't be beaten on quality, speed, and service, so competitors then try to advertise low-quality products that Empire won't even carry. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices. What they leave out of their selection just as important as what they put in it. Have a great virtual floor designer to check out your space with just a snap of a picture. Shopping for floors at the big box store can be frustrating. You might be talking to somebody that was working in HVAC or hardware yesterday. Flooring is all Empire Today does. They also, by the way, service their own warranty. So if something does happen, you just go right to them. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use the promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details. Why do I have a smile on my face? Because when I head out, I've got Rugged Road in the back of the car. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. One of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers is their ability to always float upright. You heard me right. Never lose a drink. How important is that in your life? Unlike heavy-duty coolers, other heavy-duty coolers, Rugged Road coolers are also incredibly light. Crafted to handle the toughest environments, their coolers are built to last, ensuring they can keep up with your adventure. In fact, right now, they will keep their contents cool for 7 days. 7 days, sometimes longer than that. Perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, fishing, tubing, camping, tailgating, just sitting in your basement vibing with a cooler. That works too. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used, Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use the code CHGO for 10% off. All right, CHGO Cubs Podcast, Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Delmendo, Joey running the ones and twos. And we talked a little bit about PCA yesterday and just followed it up with, hey, the fans love PCA. Well, let me tell you, the fans also love Matt Shaw and the opportunity for Matt Shaw to potentially be the third baseman. Now, we are going to try and spend this $40 million on this podcast, right?
Yep.
I think there will be some people in the live YouTube chat that will say, let's spend the money at third base. AK, maybe they want Bregman over at third. I don't know what they want.
Yeah.
Matt Shaw would obviously be the cheaper way to do it, to spend money other places. But you're relying on a rookie very heavily to be the guy at third base. Otherwise, it's Workman, Master Boney, and a list of other utility players that you might want to rely on. All right, so if Matt Shaw gets that playing time, which the Cubs have told us he's going to get, they told us he's going to get a real shot in spring training. So unless he fumbles that away, if he shows them in spring training he's the guy, they're telling us he's going to get opportunity to play at the major league level at third base. It appears some people believe he's got a shot to be National League Rookie of the Year. I don't want the hype train to go too far, but MLB Pipeline executives put out NL Rookie of the Year, and they've got him second best odds.
Yeah.
He's their number 2 choice for Rookie of the Year. That means it's not just the sickos that believe Matt Shaw could be really special, even in year one.
Well, when I saw that graphic, I just thought it was real telling of how the league is viewing him, which tells me that that's how they view the usage from the Cubs.
I don't think we ever heard that about PCA. I don't think, what was it, 18%? Was that the number?
Yeah.
I don't think a graphic would have been up last year saying almost 20% of people polled thought PCA could be National League Rookie. That's not against PCA. I think they thought there were other options.
I remember Jim Callis was on Marquee, and he said something along the lines of like PCA could be in the Rookie of the Year race. But at the time when this time period was just a calendar year ago, at this time we really didn't know how his role was going to shape out. They still hadn't signed Bellinger yet. We didn't know if he was going to be on the opening day roster, those types of things. And so, I'm not surprised that wasn't a thing. Like, this is a different situation. It seems very obvious, in my opinion, at this point here in almost mid-January, that Shaw is going to get that opportunity.
I agree, based on just what the Cubs told us. I don't think you come out and say that at the winter meetings without fully believing it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they couldn't add somebody. I just don't think their mind is tracking that way, where they're saying, we're going to have – that's why I said the Alex Bregman thing, I believe, is just a pipe dream.
I just thought it was John Heyman talking for Scott Boras.
Well, yeah, I don't think – yeah, that too. I just don't think the Cubs are going to make that statement and in the back of their mind they're thinking, but if we get Bregman, then we won't give him the opportunity. I mean, if Bregman's on your team, Shaw's not your third baseman.
Now, I believe if not yesterday, maybe it was the day before, there was something I saw on Twitter related to, it was Bruce Levine, which we love Bruce. But he was on Marquee and said that Alex Bregman could be Cody Bellinger of last year in terms of taking a real short-term contract. And I believe I said when we talked about him last week that the only way that I really see it happening is if he did take the Cody Bellinger short-term deal, like his market doesn't play out the way he wants, and so he's going to try and reiterate free agency in 2020 after the 2025 season. That was the only way that I saw it happening. Not that I need Bruce to tell me that, but I think we all in general feel that way. But I still don't know if that even puts the Cubs as players in on that because I just don't know how serious they are about that.
Right.
It's not even like we've heard them linked to him that much, like outside of John Heyman saying outside possibility. Is the outside possibility that situation only? Like, what if it gets to that? Why wouldn't the Red Sox or the Tigers even, who've been heavily talked about,
why
or the
they
Blue Jays, why wouldn't they do that? You know what I mean? So I still feel like it's a pipe dream no matter what, but that seems like the only way that it would happen.
All right, maybe we'll dig a little bit deeper into that in just a few minutes when we go into the how would you spend your $40 million or how would you build out the Cubs roster. The one thing that gets me excited about Shaw is that everybody that's seen him says, man, he's a hitter, right? Mm-hmm. And we know he's a bat-first guy, but when we saw him playing for Team USA at the end of the season, some of the highlights were some great plays at third. That doesn't mean I expect him to be a Gold Glover.
Christopher Morel had some nice plays
for specifically that reason.
In winter ball too.
You could put together a highlight reel of a couple plays that Morel put out there and say, great, he was great. I just know that the manager of that team came out and say, I have no questions about him being a major league third baseman. Mm-hmm. And so when I hear that, that's the type of feedback you like to hear. Is someone saw him for a stretch of time and it wasn't just one play or and the rest were boots and we don't see the video. That stuff can happen. When a high school kid puts out his highlight reel for recruiting, he doesn't put in the drop passes. He doesn't put in his fumbles. He puts down the 80-yard touchdown catch and then some splashy things with it and says, recruit me and give me everything you've got. That's not what we were seeing here. Mm-hmm. The manager himself said, I have no problem with him as a third baseman at Major League Baseball. I think he's going to be good there for a long time. So I'm excited that even the defense, even though there are people that wonder if he's going to be good enough to play third base, and that's not his strength, there are people that believe he can do it. And so I'm just excited to get it going. Mm-hmm. I don't want Kyle Tucker to be a one-year rental in right field so we can wait for Owen Casey another year, right?
Yep.
And I don't want Bregman over at third base for 1 year so that we can wait one more year for Matt Shaw. One of those two guys or both of those guys need to be getting serious playing time this year. If you've identified that it's Shaw because whether it's position or he's just ready more than Owen Casey is, fine. But I want one of those two guys for the health of the franchise. Well, I want to see the Cubs win 90 games and exceed projections. One of the players I want to exceed projections is either or Matt Shaw or Owen Casey. And it looks like, for now, Shaw's the most likely to get the playing time. So if he's Rookie of the Year conversation, that's a huge development for the Cubs.
Well, yeah. And then you also have your guy at third base for years to come.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully, because we had the Rookie of the Year at third base, and then he wasn't.
After like 5 years.
Now, yeah. Would I take 5 great years from Matt Shaw?
I think so.
I would. Would I take 5 Chris Bryant years from Matt Shaw? Yes, I would.
And
yes,
also
absolutely, I would.
There's some context in there too. Like injuries were a big part of the Bryant thing.
If you gave me Chris Bryant's career for Matt Shaw, would you take it?
It won't happen.
Of course you would.
I would obviously
an
take
MVP,
it.
a Rookie of the Year. Yes. Because you never know what could happen with any player. But if you told me it was just a short stint, but it would be spectacular.
Would you take?
Yes.
More realistically, would you take another version of Dustin Pedroia? Because that's who I think.
Right. That's who everybody compares him to.
Yeah.
Well, he looks like
yes.
Kind of. You see him and you say that looks like Dustin Pedroia.
Yeah.
Would you take Dustin Pedroia? Yeah. Yeah.
That guy was on a Hall of Fame
And
path
if that's the
before
case,
he got all those injuries.
I don't even care who you're looking at for third base. He's playing every day.
Yeah. So I think it's exciting that I think that if of anything about 2025, after these last handful of years where we've kind of sat here and just wondered, are these prospects going to get an opportunity? Are these prospects going to be part of the next great Cubs team? Of anything that I think we can all sit here and be excited about is that we are going to see them this year. It's not just Matt Shaw. If Cade Horton stays healthy, we would have saw Cade Horton last year. We'll probably see him this year if he stays healthy. And he works on what was going wrong with him in AAA before the injury, right? So I think Owen Casey will get an opportunity at some point. I don't know how, but I do think he will, because we see injuries happen.
But I don't know about right out of spring training.
No, I doubt right out of spring training. Again, unless an injury happens.
Or trade.
Right. Or
unless there's a trade.
I'm also very...
Seiya gets moved.
Sure. They're not going to trade Seiya. Stop it. Just stop it.
And he accepts it with his no trade clause.
What? I'm also... Never...
Okay, sorry.
You're shifting so much, I'm just going to, pull your mic away. You made me lose track of what I was thinking because you said something so ridiculous.
Do you realize what's happening? He's accusing me of becoming the
sunny
ridiculous
side mind
one
meld.
Here. Yeah.
You have certainly been more ridiculous this offseason than me. I think I could sit here and make an argument for that.
Look, the Juan Soto took a lot out of all of us, okay? let's be very fair.
Objectively, we're both ridiculous.
I'm just trying to give us something to talk about.
Yes. He does this to give us something to talk about because he knows he's going to say something that I'm going to be like, what?
Which I might when
you sit here and you're talking about how you're like, yeah, I'd trade Seiya Suzuki. And I'm like, what? Yeah.
Oh, I'd trade him. I don't know. Depending on who you're trading him for, sure.
Whatever.
Right now, the best thing is probably to keep Seiya.
But even to walk down that hypothetical path, that'd have
now.
to be like a mega deal at the deadline, right? That brought us back like Scooble or something like that. If you're actually really talking about if you were to trade Seiya.
Yeah, I mean, they're not getting Scooble for Seiya.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It'd have to be that'd be like a mega deal at the
Yeah.
end of the deadline. Where
Sure.
a blockbuster where those
take a
old
big
school,
deal, but we're not.
I would have
no
never.
matter,
I would have
no matter
never
how bad Scooble is this year. They're not getting him for Seiya.
I would have never traded Seiya for Tucker. He would have never been part of that trade for me. I would have felt a lot different about the Tucker trade if they included Seiya.
Well, I almost traded Ian Happ for Moncada a couple years ago. So
And Patrick Wisdom.
Well, Wisdom was the add-on.
the sweetener.
He's the sweetener. They didn't want it. They didn't want the deal. That's why they're the Sox. All right, we're going to talk about how to spend the $40 million here in just a minute. But first, we want to tell you about another one of our great sponsors, which you can see right on the set. And frankly, this should be in your home or your dorm room or wherever. Started by two college friends, Saturday Neon makes officially licensed collegiate logo LED neon signs perfect for your home, office, dorm room, fan cave, or bar. Maybe it's your setup for your podcast. Check out their new Essentials collection featuring almost 50 of the biggest schools across the country and counting for only $75. I don't know if Valpo's on there, but it should be. No
Is
better.
you on there?
I don't know. EIU's on there. I bet you Illinois is on there, though.
Yeah.
No better way to represent your favorite Big Ten team. Unlike traditional neon, these LED signs won't break or shatter, but they still give you that classic uniform glow that you know and love. LEDs last up to 100,000 hours, so you'll be enjoying your sign for years to come. Super easy to install using the provided hardware and low voltage. That means they don't get hot. They're always safe to the touch. The perfect gift for this, maybe like I said, Valentine's Day. What says I love you better than a neon sign to your loved one? Maybe you write I love you in neon. That's not part of their deal. But anyways, CHGO's use Saturday Neon to get our studio signs. They look great. Use the code CHGO for 10% off your order at Saturday Neon Network.com, right?
Right.
Maybe she wants an Illini.
She's a
neon
Michigan
sign.
fan. She's a Michigan fan, unfortunately.
Maybe if she's listening, you would like an Illini Saturday neon sign.
Maybe I would.
Or maybe you want to get Corey something for Valentine's Day.
That'd be awkward.
Michigan guy.
That'd be
Hey, buddy,
weird.
I thought I'd get you something. We've missed you around here.
Yeah, we've missed you around
We've
here.
missed your scent.
Hey, I bought this. I sent it to the office, so you have to come pick it up by coming to say hi to us. He'd be the one who would just come when we're not here and get it.
Right.
Anyway, speaking of Illinois, Michigan, Valpo, you can go watch all those college basketball teams, or if your team's still in the college football playoff, Penn State, Notre Dame tonight.
Oh, yeah.
You can go to that game tonight. I can't believe I'm going to root for Notre Dame. I'm a quiet Notre Dame hater.
I could never root for Penn State ever again, no matter how much they clean up the program.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair. But you can go to those games using Game Time. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. One of the things that I love about Game Time, Luke, is that they have this toggling feature that shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. No bait and switch. No one likes a bait and switch, and that is not what Game Time does. They tell you exactly what it is up front. All right? They have seat views that which is a panoramic view, actually, from your seat in the app before you buy. They have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And then they also have Game Time ticket coverage, where your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time and your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. I was at the Illinois Penn State game last night, 40-point blowout. It was absolutely electric at the State Farm Center. They have USC on Saturday. Considering going because I'm high on Illinois right now.
Oh, I thought you were going to say high on Sunnyside.
I'm like, well, because Sunnyside is only helping my high because Illinois is the only winning thing that I've had the last 5 years of my life. But they are way better than they've been the last 5 years this season. Might use Game Time. Might drive to Champaign, get my ticket right before I walk in because that's why Game Time is awesome.
Pays off.
It pays off. You get the tickets cheaper the closer you get to the game. All right, so take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Boom.
Very nice. So we're just throwing out an arbitrary number. Cubs saved money by trading Cody Bellinger. We're hoping that money will be spread around other places to improve the team instead of put back into the pockets of the owners. So
yeah,
let's just call the number $40 million. Let's give ourselves $40 million to spend before opening day to fill out this roster. They've done some nice improving. Obviously, Tucker in right allows you to have Saya be the DH. All of a sudden, the offense, I think, takes a step forward, even though you've removed Bellinger and Paredes. How would you fill out the rest of the roster? Gordon Wittenmeyer told us yesterday, unless they improve that what he called garbage bullpen, then nothing's going to change. So I guess there's multiple questions. One, where would you spend your money? And then more specifically, on whom would you spend your money, right?
Yeah.
So I think we both agree that starting pitcher, bullpen help, I think that's 1-2. Some people would say third base and other slugger. I've said offense was, to me, the biggest problem last year. But right now where they sit, having added Tucker, I'm willing to shift my theory and say if I'm going to take $40 million, the majority of that money for me is going to go towards pitching.
Yeah. Well, I think you can make the argument that the offense or the lineup is better than what it was at the end of 2024 right now.
It has to be, though. That's why I'm not going to bust somebody. I know in my head kind of where my list is going. But if somebody wants to tell me that, I don't think this player's the answer, but if you were to tell me Pete Alonso 5 for 125, If you told me you were doing that, I wouldn't say you're absolutely crazy, because I think you do need more offense. We've said offense was a major problem. I don't think there's a wrong way to spend this until it's proven that it's wrong later, right? Like,
sure,
hindsight is 2020, but right now, if you give me a list, I don't think there's a crazy way.
The one thing about Pete Alonso, as someone who's said many times that I'm like very much against it, if it involves moving Michael Bush. If you get to keep Michael Bush and somehow add Pete Alonso,
right, I just don't know where you play him.
You want to sit here and throw out your Seiya Suzuki slander and add Pete Alonso to the DH and keep Michael Bush at first. I can find a way to accept that.
Is Pete Alonso a better hitter than Seiya Suzuki?
He's a better power hitter.
He's a better. That's the answer. He's a better power hitter.
But I don't know.
I don't know if he's a better.
I don't think he's
hitter.
a better overall hitter, though. Personally, like, we know Seiya needs to hit more homers. Sure.
So that's why I don't think that makes sense, unless you're just trying to add more power.
Alonso,
which I've also said they do need more power.
Alonso would add more power. That's for sure. That's the only thing about Pete Alonso that I'm like, yes, that makes sense that this team could use it. You put him in the middle of the lineup with Kyle Tucker and in my scenario, Michael Bush as well, and all that. But
Marzik says the wrong way to spend that $40 million is a bunch of guys at 7 and 9, a bunch of mid players.
I agree, and I don't.
You know what? I'll take that answer. I correct myself right now. There is a wrong way to spend it. It would be a bunch of guys at like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 million.
Yeah, but I don't think me or you are doing that.
No, we're not. Godfather wants to spend the full 40 on a closer.
You want to give $40 million to a closer? I don't think even Tanner Scott's not worth $40 million.
Yeah, right. I think we
can
do it for less than 40 for what's actually available.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway,
you want to do your first, because here's one thing I didn't really factor in, and I'm debating of whether we should have added it in. I didn't factor in. I didn't consider the trades. I still think trade is an avenue that they can go. Mm-hmm. And then you have to take on salary when that comes on. So when I show you my list, all right, we'll get to it. Go ahead, Cody.
All right. So I know for the sake of the game, we are going up to $40 million.
Up to $40 million.
And not going over it.
No.
I don't know how much money this guy will get.
Right.
But he made $4 million with the Dodgers last year. And I didn't put him on our list. I came up with this while we were doing the show. But you want to talk? You want to add in a backup role, a guy who can play all over the field for you. Kike Hernandez made $4 million with the Dodgers last year, so I don't know how much more he's going to make. And at 33 years old, I assume it'll be something similar to that, right? Maybe a couple more million. So Kike Hernandez is a guy that I feel like could fill that veteran role behind Matt Shaw. He's also a guy that we just haven't talked about, and I just wanted to throw another name out there because we've talked a lot about Moncada. We've talked about Josh Rojas before he signed.
Bregman for 26, 27 million.
Right. I think Kike Hernandez at least brings really good, veteran experience, World Series winning experience with multiple teams, I believe. I think he won with the Red Sox in 18. And
Moncada cost you a bucket of baseballs.
So, again, when Joey's going to show this graphic, Hernandez won't be on there. Do you want me to do the entire thing? Or
sure, go ahead. Give me your whole thing.
So we'll go Hernandez, and then I'll go Jack Flaherty. I'll go Kirby Yates, and then, of course, I'm still dreaming about Roki. And Roki, we put $1 million, but essentially that's how much he's going to make in year one. I think I'm going over 40 by $1 or $2 million. But I don't know where the actual line is. It's somewhere between 40 and 50 million for the Cubs. So it's realistic in a way. To me, I said this when we talked about Flaherty. To me, the best case scenario, or I think the way that really puts them ahead of everyone in division is if they get Roki and still add another starting pitcher after that. Because I think their depth would be great. And I don't know how many innings Roki will pitch in year one.
So in addition to your list is Flaherty, Yates, Roki, and Kike?
And Kike Hernandez, yeah.
Okay. I will say this. That's a great list. If they get that, I will fall over, right? I will be beyond ecstatic if they can get how you're spending it. I don't know that.
Doesn't it just go over a little bit of 40?
Sure.
Like it's not like
no. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying it's very hopeful, right?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who has Roki on the list is very hopeful, like
right.
very like,
and Flaherty, because Flaherty, like all of those guys are very hopeful. If they can pull off with $40 million your list, Jed Hoyer will have had himself an offseason. If he will have added those guys plus Kyle Tucker,
again, the money
and a backup catcher.
I don't know if we said this, but the money is projected from MLB trade rumors,
right? Just and those were numbers that they were putting out,
right?
So sort of at the beginning of free agency, they've been pretty close on some of them.
For the exercise, that's how we went off. I mean, what Flaherty was 23 million AAV, like, and Kirby Yates was 1 year 14, or not 1 year, but 14 million, like, yeah. So.
Marzik says, I don't know if I trust Flaherty. That's something we've talked about. He had a 2023 Bellinger year.
I get that.
Boyd's had a lot of injuries. Mm-hmm. You've already added Boyd, who's coming off an injury. You got a lot of other young pitchers you're counting on that had injuries. The problem is all the pitchers have injuries.
Yeah, except Luis Castillo. He's definitely been healthy, but I also think his under-the-hood numbers are concerning.
Well, and you'd also inherit like an AAV of like 24 million for multiple seasons moving forward.
But again, we're talking
not worst case scenario. That's for sure.
For the exercise, we're going up to 40 million, but it's somewhere between 40 and 50 $million here. So let's just act as if
40 should be low, but that should be the low number of what they're spending. Now, I like your list. I'd be thrilled if they got Flaherty. I really would. I know it's a gamble, but I went a different way with my list. I went stir the pot a little more.
You stir the pot?
I went a little crazy. I'm not gonna lie. I went a little Mark Carmen on this one. I went a little out there.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what?
That's the.
I was like, Flaherty, 23 million. It's a roll of the dice because of his health. If I can get the key to this, the linchpin of this whole thing is, if I can get Roki at like $1 million and solidify my staff with Roki, even though we don't know how it's going to translate year one, and he's young and he's a project, he's not necessarily a finished product, yada, yada. If you can get Roki for $1 million, then I don't have to have Flaherty as my other pitcher, right? Like, first of all, I think we're dreaming on either way.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm willing to roll the dice on $16 million for Max Scherzer for 1 year if I got Roki in my back pocket.
What if you didn't get Roki?
Number one, here's a guy I'm putting on my team that Roki and some of the young pitchers can look at and say, that guy did it and he worked hard. I don't think anybody would argue that about Max Scherzer. Is he washed up? Maybe. Very possibly. But at $16 million, it's like the $16 million you spent on Kyle Hendricks last year. I would say the upside on Scherzer this year, for me, is higher than what the Angels are getting for Kyle Hendricks, even though I love Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah.
$16 million, roll the dice. If I've got Roki as my backup plan and Ben Brown, Javier Assad, and some of the young Cade Horton and some of those options, I'm willing to take that 1 year, $16 million roll of the dice just for the sake of argument. Now, you got to address the bullpen. You got to. So I did.
Finnegan?
I loved the idea of Finnegan, and I think all the names we have on both of our lists, I'm interested in. I think I went Tanner Scott, right? Who else did I have on my list, Joey? I think I've addressed everything. I got Finnegan at 3. Yep. I got Tanner Scott. So I've addressed the bullpen. I still believe in Porter Hodge. I kind of think Ben Brown might be a star in the making, waiting to happen in the bullpen. If he's healthy, they tell us he's healthy.
Yep.
And I think I've made the starting rotation much stronger by having the guys that I have and adding to it Scherzer and Roki.
Yeah.
I've also left myself like roughly $6-7 million to play with during the season. So if the Scherzer thing falls flat, and I know it's fallen flat, I can move somebody that's got money on the contract and try and go get myself somebody. I can, because in this case, I haven't done the trade yet with the prospects. Now, if I were to flip that list and say, you know what, that's a ridiculous list, which it might be.
Unfortunately, I feel like your list is more realistic than mine.
Well, I like I said, if yours happens, Jed Hoyer has had an A+ offseason, even without talking to Juan Soto. If he can get that done, I will look at it and say, Jed got some good work done this offseason. They're a better team than they were last year. Now, there's other guys you could think about, right? You had Yates. Carlos Estevez, would you spend $9 million on him?
He's certainly an upgrade than what they have.
He would be.
Yeah.
Now, does he fall in that mid-level that people are talking about? I think it's okay to have some of those mid-level guys as long as you're shooting for the stars with, in my case, it's Roki and Scherzer and yada yada and Tanner Scott. Now, neither one of us did the trade route. So if we have that, because we didn't say that's what we were going to do for this, but the most realistic spending of the $40 million isn't necessarily all in free agents. The most realistic route for this, for the Cubs, is not your way or my way. It's taking some prospects and inheriting some AAV from a player like a Luis Castillo. Now, do you want to spend $24 million of your $40 million plus prospect capital to have Castillo be? And the way I took it here now, and I'm looking at it afterwards, and I'm saying either way, whether it's my crazy way of Scherzer and Roki or your way of Roki and Flaherty, I think I'd rather spend the money that way, even though they might be a bigger roll of the dice.
Well, I
and
feel
less
like,
certainty.
I feel like at this point, Luis Castillo is more of a dream than it was a month ago. There's, I'm curious about Pablo Lopez still. I think he's definitely a little bit cheaper and younger. That's something that
Castillo and Lopez are probably more likely than our list.
Yeah.
Probably.
I honestly, I feel like Flaherty is more likely than Luis Castillo at this point. But, I don't know. I'm not at the offices at 1060 West Addison. What do I know? Do you want them to take that? I'm curious what Joey thinks too. Like, would you guys rather have them take that prospect capital that they have, whoever it might be? Maybe it's Owen Casey, maybe it's Triantos, maybe it's a combination. Would you rather have them trade those guys now to go get whatever player A might be that would help the team now? Let's say it's involved in a Castillo deal. Or would you rather hang on to those guys for now, go with one of our two lists, and say, we've got money that we held over from that list, and we still have those prospects that will help us get the deal done. Would you rather do it at the trade deadline? Is it going to cost you more at the trade deadline to get a guy that you know is having a good season? Yeah. I think it.
But you're also rolling the dice on this.
I think it depends. Obviously, depends on who the player is.
Mm-hmm.
I am also concerned in this route about, is it just a rental? And at this point, I would not be sending a ton of those prospects, and I don't think Jed Hoyer would do this either, unless the stars align, Luke, and this team is pushing 100 wins, exceeding projections at
even
a 2016 level. That's the only way that I would see Jed Hoyer do something like that in terms of sending prospects for a rental. But also at the deadline now, like that doesn't happen very often anymore. Like at least for like a major player,
mm-hmm.
Like they're not going to be trading for Vlad Jr. at the trade deadline, and sending massive prospect.
I just don't think those deals very often lead to that team winning the World Series, which I don't think this team.
Unless it's a pitcher, right? We've seen it with like CC Sabathia, and when you make the certain trades.
But I don't think
Randy Johnson.
I don't think the prospects they have will get that done for that type of monster move.
Right, and that's the question, right? Is like when you talk about something at the deadline, you're talking about like outcome certainty, which is something that seems like Ricketts and Jed really, really enjoy when you want to push the margins. So, I mean, it seems like that they want to believe that they can turn these pitchers into guys over and over again. So maybe you are dipping into that bat pool to acquire what you want. I guess my question is, are you trading a bat for a bat in that situation? Or are you trading Triantos for the Luis Castillos of the world? That would be my question.
The reason I saved money is twofold. One, I guess I'd be, even though I didn't think this early in the offseason, I guess I'd be okay if they held on to the prospect capital until the trade deadline. But at some point this year, they've got to make that move.
Yeah.
But for instance, if you found out that Shaw wasn't quite ready to handle third base, much like you went through the process with Morel, and Bregman did sign a 1-year prove-it deal, then I would be able to take one of those prospects and get Bregman to finish it and trying to kick me into a postseason. In that scenario,
depending on what team he goes to.
Correct. That team would have to obviously
be failing.
Stink too.
And that's the balance, right? We're like, we saw it last year with the Maya and PCA. We had to give them those 250, 270 patient at-bats of ups and downs and struggles. We're about to do that again with Shaw. Yeah. I don't think the Cubs want to also do that with Casey at the same time. Ipso facto, Kyle Tucker. So maybe next year, Casey is the version of Shaw, hoping that each of these guys incrementally are further along in the process. But it's a hard balancing act, right?
The thing
when you're trying to win,
yes,
100%.
Yeah.
You not only you're trying to win, the thing that makes me hesitate about that philosophy of waiting until to make that big move until the trade deadline is this. You also could have guys, prospects, A, get hurt, B, fall off like Matt Mervis, or what, heaven forbid, knock on all kinds of wood, but like, we've talked about how progress isn't linear. Sometimes that includes the minor league level. Like, things can happen. So is this the highest trade value you'll get for Owen Casey? Well, no, he could go to spring training, have a good spring, get sent back to Iowa and just destroy, and then maybe his value starts to go up.
Yeah.
It's all risky business, but sooner or later they're going to have to trade those prospects. One way or another, some of those prospects, at least two of them, are going to have to be moved for someone that's proven at the major league level. Has to happen.
Yeah.
You can't just wait for all of them.
Yeah. I think James Triantos will make it through the 2025 season in the Cubs farm system? No.
I don't either.
I don't. Who is he being moved for? I would guess a pitcher. Or third baseman if Shaw struggles. And they're still somehow winning. You have to factor in the fact, like, where are the Cubs by that time?
Sure. Well,
I would assume that they're going to be at least 500. Let's just play that game. Anywhere from 500 to 5 games over. Let's hope that it's more than that. And let's hope that they're somewhere in that division race, right? If so, like, I don't see them doing anything major at the deadline to improve the team at a drastic level, theoretically. But I could see them doing something like what they did in 23 when they added Candelario.
How many people do you think are going to be mad if we post that Scherzer thing on social? How many people are going to slam me for saying that? I'm not even sure I believe it. I really don't.
Ring the bell for the agists. Here we come, everybody. The
this
washed
guy's
crowd.
Lost his mind. What an old head.
Like I said, when you said that to me offset, I was like,
well, it wasn't my original choice, but the lists were boring.
Yeah.
I didn't want the list to be boring. I'm trying to throw out some with a little spice.
Yeah.
Some little
sunny side
little
spice.
sriracha on that baby.
It doesn't necessarily, like, it's not the worst idea in the world. It's just it's a deflating idea. In this offseason,
Listen, if
after
they get,
what happened last year, if your biggest starting pitcher addition
no, it won't be.
is Max Scherzer
No,
at
because
this age?
My precursor for that was they have to get Roki. Let
Okay.
Scherzer sit there. If they get Roki, we're all happy, right?
Right.
And we're not going to care who that other pitcher is. And at that point, that's the whole point of my thing is, if they get Roki, you could take a flyer on Max Scherzer as your 6th starter, 5th starter, whatever. I don't care what you do with it. If you want to blow $16 million and hope you catch lightning in a bottle with Max Scherzer, fine.
Yeah.
You can if you want to. I could also just stop at Roki.
And also, if the Cubs are winning, I would like to think that Max Scherzer is the type of player that would pitch a 7th or 8th inning or a 9th inning or do literally whatever you want the end of his road as long as the Cubs are winning.
It's not even that I hate the idea of adding Max Scherzer. It's more about just again, it's just deflating. It doesn't move the needle for me.
If they don't get Roki, then I'm telling you, I'm not in love with the idea of Max Scherzer.
If you get Roki,
then I definitely if they're not getting Roki, then I want Flaherty.
Yeah.
Period.
I just put what I think is at this point, based off how the rumor mill is going right now and whatever, who knows? Maybe one of these trades that we've talked about the last month and a half, maybe that ignites again after Roki signs, because I do think we all think Roki is holding up the market, Yeah. But, man,
did Bieber ever sign? Ugh. Did Shane Bieber ever sign?
Yeah, he's going back to the Guardians.
He's going back, right? Yeah.
Back to the Guardians.
So that's the same type.
And Verlander to the Giants.
Yeah, I saw that was just yesterday, right?
Yeah. Scherzer would bring a veteran. Leadership can help. He'll bring a presence that this team hasn't had. It's an even bigger presence than Kyle Hendricks brought to this team.
Kershaw confirmed back to the Dodgers?
Kershaw's never leaving the Dodgers, dude.
He sleeps in Dodger Stadium. Let's be real. They just need to knock on the door and he'll be ready to roll.
Oh, and Edward's saying, you're assuming Matt Scherzer wants to play for the Cubs. Oh, absolutely. That's why these lists are just all of it is. I don't know that any of those free agents are interested in playing in the Cubs.
Let's just act by what Edward's saying. No one wants to play for the Cubs. Let's not put a list out at all.
Well,
I mean,
we're filling a podcast.
What do you want us to say, man?
All we're saying is 40 million.
Verlander going to the Giants made no sense. So.
I told you. I think both of our lists are totally unrealistic.
Yeah.
I really do. I love Cody's list. I don't think the Cubs can get that done.
Yeah.
I would love to see him spend $40 million that way. I don't know.
Is there one point?
I'm most afraid that what I'm most afraid of is at the end of the season or on opening day, we're going to look back at the list and be like, this is how the Cubs spent $15 million.
Yeah.
That's what will drive me crazy.
Well, yeah, because
if we look back at it and say they didn't get Roki, they didn't get Flaherty, they got Yates, and they got one other guy, and it's this is how they spent their $15 million, and they pocketed the rest, and they may or may not spend it depending on how the season goes.
Right.
That's the list that should drive you crazy.
Yeah.
G-Wit, breaking news.
From G-Dub, MLB. Gordon Whitmire.
Gordon Whitmire on the show yesterday, friend of the show, says Justin Steele avoids arbitration with your Chicago Cubs. What is it?
$6.55 million for
what a
number one starter.
What a bargain that is. That's why they should be able to go spend some money on guys.
Yeah, I know.
More than $40 million. That's why they ought to be thinking big bucks.
That's such a steal of a deal.
No pun intended. No play on words.
Yeah.
Steal's a steal. That's what listen, if you can have him at $6.5 million and Shota's a great deal, Tyone's affordable at his deal. If you can get Roki at you should be able to spend huge somewhere else. And that's why I've said, that's what I was trying to say yesterday to Gordon. That's how you should spend for Kyle Tucker. That's how you hit it. All right. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. We are back again next week. Corey, Brendan will be here at 11:30 tomorrow with their podcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks to the sickos and the diehards.
Just want to let everyone know we got another minute here to wrap. But before we do, we have a coaching tracker live for the Bears right now.
Oh.
So this is free to everybody. You don't have to be a diehard to see it, but if you go to check out our Bears show right after this, we're going to have a link in there, and you can follow all the Bears head coaching rumors and interviews. They only have about 1,000
18 now?
Yeah, Luke, you might be getting an interview.
They've requested to talk to Haktua Girl.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I think
that's the latest person they've asked to interview for the job?
I heard that somewhere,
Yeah.
Don't let the facts get in the way.
Connect the dots
I'll just talk to him. It's fine. I'll take the meeting. It's cool. I'll do it.
Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. Again, Corey Brendan, tomorrow at 11:30. We're back with more insanity and whatnot, and probably talk some grilled cheese next week as well, because I forgot the 7th inning stretch today. It's unfortunate. It was a fun Sunnyside Thursday. Thanks for watching. Appreciate all of you. And don't forget, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.